We talk about this shit all day. Let me lower my phone.
I remember this. Dude, this is awesome.
You have some.
I have some?
In your box that we just... Yeah, we here.
What do you do when you want to watch a movie nowadays? Well, you usually go to the movie theater or watch it on Netflix. But back in our day, there were video rental stores. There are all kinds of things in the world today. Some are pretty dumb, but others okay. But nothing compares to the things back in my day.
Zipper. Both of you. I've had to tell both of you tonight.
My zipper is zipped, you
Now?
Oh, what? I'm on the Flash? You looked over it and I'm like...
No, I said I have,
what are
I've
you
had
doing
to tell
looking at our
both
crotches,
Yeah,
huh?
exactly.
Fuck, I did set myself up.
Yeah, you did. Hey, that gets left in.
Yeah, no, it does.
So like we said in the intro, hey, is it cool that there's Netflix? Is it cool that there's Hulu, Amazon Prime? Yeah, you know what? We use it. But back in our day, we didn't have that luxury. Things were a lot harder to watch a movie. Okay, what we had to do is we had to get in the car. We had to drive.
Oh, God. Oh,
I know,
man. Oh.
right? Now, you wake up. Hell, you don't even got to get out of bed. You can just do it on your phone.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Me and Chris would rent movies all the time. Like every Friday night, we would come, spend the night at my grandmother's house. It was like a weekly tradition. We either rent a movie or a game. Sometimes we were lucky enough we actually got both. These Star Wars movies, that's how I actually first ended up watching them, was we rented them from Kroger. Actually, Kroger had a movie rental section. And I remember renting Star Wars for the very first time and being like blown away by it. And I was like 6 or 7 maybe. But that's how we were able to watch our movies.
You know, the thing with the rental video stores is there was almost a sense of accomplishment. You know, getting the movie you wanted meant a little bit more because what if it was rented already? What if they didn't have any copies, you know?
I see.
Especially if it was a movie you really wanted, if you were able to get it. And if you didn't and you had to go back a few times before you finally got it, you appreciated watching the movie more.
See, back in the day, they had the cover boxes. The movie was not in them.
And also, this VHS, by the way, VHS tapes. Probably somebody watching right here doesn't know what the hell these things are. Did you put these in a VCR?
VCR, right. But back in the day, they had the cover boxes. You put the styrofoam in, they shrunk wrap it up. They would put this in a special hard plastic case, and it would be behind the movie. So when you walked up, you saw this, and you were crossing your fingers, please be there, please be there, please be there. And it was the same for video games too. And sometimes you'd walk up, look behind, no movie, damn it, I gotta come back. It was just not as easy as it is now to be able to watch a film.
Yeah.
Because, well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, now I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay. You know, renting was a lot cheaper than buying the movie. Movies, when they came out, $20, $25, even VHS tapes.
But do you remember, like, sometimes when a VHS would come out, like, the first week it was $99?
Sometimes, yes.
I never understood
Sometimes.
that.
It was the thing is everybody rented. You had your Blockbuster and you had your Hollywood Video.
We rented that at HEB when we were kids.
HEB. That's a Texas thing. Kroger, like you said, there was a drugstore kind of like Eckerd's or like CVS now called Farmore back in the day where we used to rent our video games from. Remember, everybody. There was so many mom and pop shops. You could go into a gas station and rent VHS, and then later on it graduated to DVDs, obviously. So
There was do you remember that rental place on 303? It was those two buildings.
That wooden building.
That had
Yes.
like the red roof on it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember. They rented porn.
Yeah, they did.
They did. They rented porn. They had a backroom section.
I remember one of my distinct memories of going in there was I wanted to rent Jaws 4 because my mom had taken me to watch some kiddie movie, but I remember Jaws 4 was out at that time, and I was like, I want to watch Jaws 4. And I remember seeing the poster for it as we were walking to the stupid movie. I was like, I don't want to see Jaws 4. So I remember when it actually came on video, I was trying to look for Jaws 4, and it was out that day.
You know what else? Back in our day, when you put these movies in and you wanted to go to a certain scene, what'd you have to do?
You had to fast forward.
I had to sit there and fast forward.
See, that's the funny thing is, The VHS tape, even back in the 80s, was a format that I did not like because it was just so tedious because you did have to rewind constantly.
Yeah, but it was the way. This is pre
the tape got
DVD.
eaten up and stuff, you know. I remember back in the 80s thinking there's got to be a better way to watch a movie.
That actually is what sold me on DVD. When I found out DVD, they were new, obviously. It's not like I let DVDs run for 10 years before buying one. When they were like, it has chapter select. And I'm like, what does that even mean? What's chapter select? They go, think of it like a CD. You know, you put your CD in, you can skip tracks. Okay? CDs, obviously, are better than cassette tapes, right? DVDs, better than VHS, which is essentially a big cassette tape. They were like, you can skip scenes and you can go to different parts of the movie just clicking instead of sitting there and waiting on it to fast forward and rewind and then you miss it. Oh, now you got to hold the button and it's playing the movie backwards and whatever. Also, back in our day, when you returned these, if they weren't rewound, you got fined for it. You got fined basically like another day of rental because...
Be kind, rewind.
Yeah, be kind, rewind, right.
Didn't we stop doing that at Blockbuster?
No, well, yeah, we stopped fining. Oh, the funny thing, I'm glad you brought that up, Blockbuster. This is how me and Billy met.
Back in the 90s.
Back in the 90s, right.
Back in the 1990s.
in the 90s. But
still qualified.
They were still renting VHS. And Blockbuster used to have like 5 or 6 rewinders. So movies would come in, you'd have to open them, check them, shove them in the fucking
I didn't realize
rewinder.
how old that makes us feel right now. We actually worked at a store where we had VHS,
Had VHS tapes, exactly.
Holy fuck.
Exactly. So, but anything else you guys want to add?
Actually, the funny thing is that Blockbuster store that we used to work at, it had been there for a while before we started working there. At least I started working there. I believe I was like 20, somewhere like that. But I think at around 12 or 13, I was riding my bike there to get GamePro magazines.
That's funny.
And I lived several neighborhoods down. But me and Chris, I try to freak Chris out all the time because I would come home. I'd go to my grandmother's house on Friday night, and he'd be like, "What movie did you rent? What movie did you rent?" And I'd be like, UFOs are real, motherfucker! I would rent all this kind of stuff. There's another one up here. Oh yeah, flying saucers are real. I believe this one was actually at that very store and we rented and watched this. But every time they came out with a new one that had the actual documentary style, you know, talking about UFOs and stuff, I had to have it. So it was just I guess my obsession with that kind of stuff has been, you know, with me for a while now. So
I remember HEB in Corpus Christi. We'd have to bother our parents to take us. We want to rent a movie. We want to rent a video game.
We would save our allowances up.
Yeah.
We save our allowance, yeah.
And we'd go, and I remember I'd go straight to the horror section of movies, and I'd look to see if they had anything new, you know? One of the things that really stands out, though, was Transformers, the movie. When that came out, I begged my parents. I wanted to go see that movie.
So good.
So bad I wanted to see that movie in the theater, and they would not take me, probably because we didn't have any money. But I remember when it came out on VHS, going to the store, getting it, throwing it in the VCR, and I was just glued. I was heartbroken when freaking all my favorite Transformers got killed.
Well, spoiler alert.
but you know, that was one of those you know, memories etched in stone, I guess, if you will.
one of my distinct memories actually is renting The Empire Strikes Back. It was the first time I had ever seen it. But I knew that this was the next one after Star Wars, so we rented it. And me and Chris watched it. And literally as the thing ended, the credits rolled, I rewound it and watched it immediately again. Immediately right after that. And then me and Chris that night proceeded to pretend we were in the movie. And I believe we had a toy Millennium Falcon, I believe, and we'd go, I'd actually burn it with the matches and lighters and stuff, put battle damage on it and stuff.
You want to know what's funny is slightly off subject, but whenever we watch a fighting movie back when we were kids, dude, everybody, especially Timothy, got pumped up and start jumping off the couches, karate kicking and punching and just straight up fighting.
He thought he was in the movie.
Pumped up, man.
Yeah,
Karate Kid or you know. Commando, it didn't matter what it was.
Commando, Bloodsport,
and
Bloodsport's a good.
All of them.
So what? So did he? shut his eyes and was like this, or attack me.
Dude,
attack
it wasn't
me.
just him, man. We were
It was all
all
of
jumping
us.
off the couches
It was all
and
of us.
fighting each other,
Yeah.
man. It was just like we were just like, it was just like sugar, you know.
It was
just
like Lord of the Flies.
That's kind of like watching a wrestling pay-per-view on VHS and then trying to do the wrestling movie.
Yeah, but it's on that level, right?
It's kind of like when Blockbuster's closed and you throw the boxes on the
That's
floor.
what I
and
was
you-
implying,
Yeah.
Oh, wait, there's something we didn't actually cover, is game rentals.
Game rentals, yeah. I wish I'd known we were filming this. I actually have some old Blockbuster game rental cases with the matching game inside, oddly enough. But it was the same thing, and again, it was a cheaper alternative than going and buying the movie or buying the game outright at the store. And usually, it was. I think it started out at like $3 for like the weekend or something like that, or for 5 days, and eventually it graduated up to like almost $6 for 2 nights or some bullshit.
The funny thing is, I remember getting my pick more often than not when it came to movies, but for whatever reason,
I got the games.
for whatever reason, Jay got the games.
I did.
And for whatever reason, we
Always a
never
sports
never
game.
learned our lesson.
Always a sports game with me.
We were like,
growing up.
you would say, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to the store with the old man and get a game." We're like, "Okay, get a good game." He'd come back with a sports game every single
I
time,
come back with Tecmo Bowl.
and we would never learn our lesson, and we'd be furious with you. Dodongo and Tim and I would be just like, "You stupid jerk! How come
Well,
you couldn't get a game we all wanted to play?"
The thing is, like, unless you were gonna go and stop me from doing it, what were you gonna do?
But the funny thing is,
So,
it really was funny though, because we would never realize what was going to happen until it was too late. We would forget. We were that
So
stupid,
y'all would
I
never
guess.
learn your lesson.
We'd never learn a lesson when it came to that.
20 minutes
Idiots.
after I left, wait a minute, no cell phones at the time.
Oh no!
Couldn't call and be like, yo, you better come with some good shit this time. But anyways,
Jump into Gremlin and go.
yeah.
Yeah. I literally think 90% of the games I played as a kid were rentals. They had to have been.
Yeah, us too, for sure. We got games. We were bought games on birthdays. What do you want? A Nintendo game. Birthdays and like Christmas. What do you want? Video games. But the way we played games was rentals because they were cheaper. Because again, like I said, $2, $3, $4, you can go get the game and you played it all weekend long, and it was great.
I never owned a Mega Man on NES is one of my favorite series, and I never once owned any of the games back as a kid. I always rented them. So that's how important renting was actually. If you want to actually know more about video rentals and the rise and fall and how Nintendo tried to fuck everyone over, actually Norm the Gaming Historian has a great video. So I guess we'll give him a plug and put it this description.
I actually saw that one. It was legit. I texted him. I was like, dude, good rental video. It was pretty legit.
So yeah, if you want to check that out. Look at the description below. Not my dick, but at the description area down below this video.
So there it is. Back in our day.
Yeah.
What? So there it is. Back in our day, we didn't have the luxury of, Blu-rays. We didn't have the luxury of Chapter Select. We didn't have the luxury of streaming, of Netflix. We had to get up and exert energy and go get a game, and we had to rewind it, or we got charged extra. And if you didn't return the game on time or movie on time, you got charged extra. And
There was definitely more effort. You know what?
Way more
This
effort.
really isn't a back in my day that's better than today, is it?
Wait, no, it's much better today, but there's a lot of nostalgia for this.
yeah.
It's
Hey, you know what? We're those grumpy old men talking about how life was better or we had it harder. That's what it is.
Honestly, these are all my VHSs. The reason I have them, I actually have a little section on the wall dedicated to them because I do remember fondly video rental stores, and I wanted a little section in my game room that looked like a video rental store because I think it looks awesome.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So
There you
the
go.
point is, appreciate what you whippersnappers have these days. That's the point of this video. So,
Let's go watch some Netflix.
all right, I'm out.